Today is August 6, 2022. I wanted to talk about feeding the breeders, what I feed, my thoughts on feeding. I keep it fairly simple, but I also think it's fairly important. The last several years I've been feeding Vercella Lager Champion mix, maybe 60-75%. I mix that with Vercella Lager Energy mix. I also have a feeder in front of the birds at all times full of chicken pellets. I just buy it at Tractor Supply. Nice source of minerals, nice source of protein. Also, I don't think the feeding is, what you feed is too crucial. As long as you're feeding a good 16% protein mix, many different varieties of seeds, I think the babies will be fine. Most important are the minerals that go along with the feed. If you have a feeder of chicken pellets and every possible mineral in front of your breeders, the babies will just be spectacular. You can check out my mineral video for what I use for minerals. We can hopefully put a link to that in this video. Now, my thoughts on feeding pellets over feeding grain. For years, I fed just chicken pellets to the breeders. It was easy. I put big feeders in the section. I don't live at the lofts, so it seemed to be the best for me. But more recently, I've realized that I think the babies have a much better internal strength to their system by digesting grain from a young age. Chicken pellets, or pellets in general, are so soft. I don't think the gut, the gizzard, everything along that line when developing, when it doesn't have to crush and digest and move grain through the system, I think it's weaker. I think the droppings for the pigeon's entire life are bigger than a pigeon that is fed on grain. Another thing that I realized with feeding the grain is the parents feed milk much longer than if you have fed pellets. So a baby at banding age on grain is still receiving a lot of milk, whereas a baby maybe at 3 or 4 days old on pellets is now receiving a lot of pellets. Possibly the milk production stays high in the pigeons because of the grain. The little babies can't digest the grain. So for me, if you have an option, feed the grain. I use feeders in my breeding sections. I'm only there in the mornings. I fill them with grain, I fill them with pellets, I fill the minerals, I fill the water, and then I'm gone for the day. So the feed is in front of them at all times. And plus early in the season, from right before mating until maybe March, end of March, April, I leave the lights on 24/7 just so the breeders can feed the babies around the clock. On the short days, they go too long between feedings. You figure if the babies are getting pumped at 4 o'clock at night and then not eating again till 7 o'clock the next morning, it's too long. They're being stunted. So it's better to run the lights 24/7. Hope that helps. Frank McLaughlin, McLaughlin Lofts.